Okay, so now we're going to talk about male reproduction. So there's going to be an anatomy talk and a physiology talk. I'm going to do some brief anatomy in this talk and then more detail about the anatomy to go along with your lab videos. So the male is not quite as complex as the female, so there won't be as many lectures on the male reproductive system as compared to the female reproductive system. But there's a lot to learn about both. All right, so with the male reproductive system, again, this is going to be a brief anatomy lesson. You'll have more detail in the lab portion of the unit. So with the male reproductive system, remember when we talk about the primary sex organ, that's the testis. Okay, so this is the testis. Okay, right here, this white structure, and it is surrounded by a sac called the scrotum. Okay, so this is the sac that hangs down outside the abdominal cavity of the male. In the female, the ovaries are inside the abdominal pelvic cavity, but in the male, these testes reside outside. They're formed inside the male during fetal development, but then they descend later on. The other things you're going to look at, here is your urinary bladder. Okay, this is going to be the prostate. You have what's called a seminal gland or seminal vesicle. You have what's called the epididymis here. You have your vas deferens or ductus deferens. So let me kind of give you an idea what's happening. Your sperm, if I can erase my my markings, hang on just a second. Let's see if we can erase that. Eraser. Yeah. All right, so what we're going to talk about in this particular lecture is all the structures in the male reproductive system and what they do. And to kind of give you what we're trying to do here is we're going to talk about where the sperm develop, where they go, how do they travel, what's their pathway to the outside of the body during ejaculation. And so the sperm are going to develop inside the testis, okay? They're going to be stored in the epididymis, and then upon ejaculation, they're going to then be kind of propelled through the vas deferens or ductus deferens, okay, and into this ejaculatory duct. All right, and this is you're gonna have these two ducts here. We have this part of the urethra and this ejaculatory duct kind of coming together to form the urethra. These are right in the middle of the prostate gland. So the sperm are going to come from this vas deferens. Okay, there's going to be some stuff from the seminal vesicle added to this collection of sperm. We're going to start calling it semen now. There's going to be some stuff added from the prostate gland. You have a bulbourethral gland, and so now this final product of semen is then going to travel down the urethra through the penis. And of course, this whole blue thing right here is the penis, and then to the outside. So again, more anatomy later, but that's what we want to do. So I want you to have a visualization of where the sperm are developed, which is outside the body. Then they have to travel back up into the pelvic cavity and then back out. So it's kind of a long, circuitous route for these sperm to be able to exit the body. All right. A quicker look at what it looks like inside the testis. So inside you have what are called seminiferous tubules, and this is where the actual sperm are being developed. We're going to talk about meiosis and how the sperm divide and how you get more and more sperm and how you never run out of sperm if you're a male. The sperm will then go into the epididymis where they're going to be stored, and then upon ejaculation again they're going to leave and go up and out the body. Up and out the vas deferens, then to the outside of the body. So again, we're going to talk about this process step by step, but as I name these different structures, I want you to visualize where they are. And again, we'll do a little more detail in another video as well, using some pictures and also models. So we have a duct system. So if you've done your blood vessels yet, which I assume you have, depending on maybe which semester you're taking this course. I mean, sometimes we do things a little out of order, but typically you should have done your blood vessels now. And you should have traced a drop of blood. So you should have taken blood all the way through the heart and out to the lungs and then out to the body, then back to the heart. And we do this a lot in 202. We talk about, we trace food through the digestive system. We trace how oxygen goes into the system and then goes out to the tissues. We trace, again, many things, formation of urine. And so we're going to trace basically ejaculation, how sperm are made and travel through the male duct system. And so what you have is a series of structures and tubes. You have the epididymis, okay, this is where the sperm are made. the ductus deferens, also known as the vas deferens. Those are the same thing. This terminology is kind of changing over time. The ejaculatory duct, and the urethra. So these are going to be really your tube, your ductwork, okay? And as the sperm are traveling through this ductwork, then there's going to be some liquid added to the process as well, and we're going to create semen. We're going to talk about what all semen does and where it's made and what the functions of it is. So paired with these ducts, you have glands. Okay, and so the glands are going to be what make the bulk of the semen. Okay, so really the liquid part. The sperm are made in the testes with a little liquid, then more liquid is added as the sperm travel through this duct system. So the glands are known as the seminal glands, also the seminal vesicles, so those are the same thing, just again, depending on the terminology, depending on the book you have, and maybe what you've heard before, they're the same thing. Bulbourethral glands, and then the prostate. Okay, so you have 2 seminal vesicles, 2 bulbourethral glands, and 1 prostate. Now notice the spelling. A lot of people will say it's the prostrate. That's when you're laying face down on the ground. So it's prostate. So only 1 R. So prostate. So these seminal vesicles or seminal glands, they're going to be on the back side of the bladder. Okay, and they have a smooth muscle that will contract during ejaculation, and therefore the fluid that's made by these glandular secretions will be ejected during ejaculation. And what the seminal vesicles do is they make an alkaline seminal fluid, real viscous, so real thick. The vagina of the female is very acidic, so this alkaline material, this alkaline fluid of the seminal vesicles helps to neutralize the acidity of the vagina, which allows sperm a greater chance of surviving in a hostile environment. So you'll find the female is doing everything she can to attack the sperm because they're going to be seen as hostile. And so the male has to basically protect the sperm from this hostile environment known as the vagina and the female reproductive tract and the uterus. So other things that are included in the fluid from the seminal vesicles is fructose, so it's a sugar, so think ATP and energy. Citric acid. There is a coagulating enzyme called vesiculase, and there are prostaglandins, and we're going to talk about what these do. This is if you watch TV and maybe there's been a crime scene, maybe a sex crime scene, and they come in with a UV light and things glow. They're looking for semen. This is what is picked up by the UV light. And it's most of the semen, okay? And so your seminal vesicle glands are going to join the ductus deferens tube to form the ejaculatory duct, okay? So you have your tube coming from your seminal vesicles, and then you have your vas deferens coming together, and they form the ejaculatory duct. All right. Now, the prostate is a small, kind of walnut-size, peach pit-size gland that circles the urethra just underneath the bladder. Also has smooth muscle, and it will contract during ejaculation. And it also secretes a fluid, and it's kind of a milky, slightly acidic, not too acidic, but slightly acidic fluid. Not so acidic as to neutralize the alkalinity of the seminal vesicles. It contains citrate and some enzymes and PSA. So prostate-specific antigen, this is what men get tested for prostate cancer. So an enlarged prostate that's undergoing possibly cancer will produce more PSA, so elevated PSA levels can be an indication of prostate cancer. The fluid made by the prostate will play a role in sperm activation, okay? And it's going to enter the prostatic urea during ejaculation. So let me go back just real quickly. We haven't done a whole lot of anatomy, but the urethra actually kind of changes names as it travels through the penis. So here's your ejaculatory duct where the vas deferens and the seminal vesicles came together. These are going to now enter into the urethra, and the urethra that's part of that's encircled by the prostate is known as the prostatic urethra. And I wanted to kind of mention if men have urinary issues, maybe they can't go to the bathroom, if they have an enlarged prostate, it's because it's going to squeeze down on the urethra. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So the prostatic urethra is where the urethra passes through the prostate. All right, and it makes about a third of the semen volume. Now you have the bulbourethral glands, and those are two pea-sized glands that are just behind or inferior to behind and below the prostate, and they make a thick, clear mucus during sexual arousal. All right, so this is prior to ejaculation. This is going to be used as a lubricant. So before intercourse, before coitus between male and female, before the penis can be inserted into the vagina, there needs to be some lubrication. And so this fluid, this mucus made by the bulbourethral glands, will lubricate the penis and allow less friction during intercourse. It also will neutralize any acid left in the urethra. So maybe any residual urine that's left in the urethra, it will basically neutralize and kind of flush out the urethra. So one of my students used the term greases the slide. So I said, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So before ejaculation, you have this secretion from the bulbourethral glands to kind of flush out the penis and lubricate it. Now, you may be thinking, so this is, again, pre-ejaculation. People say, well, you can't get pregnant at this point when it's the fluid from the bulbourethral glands. Well, technically you could say that, but that's not true, okay, because you can, during sexual arousal, there can be some small ejaculate, some small bit of sperm that are starting to make their way. So this is not a safe time, not birth control, okay, so you don't need to think that this pre-arousal point is a point that, that's safe from pregnancy. We're going to have a whole talk about birth control in this unit as well, kind of the myths and the truths about birth control. All right, so what is semen? Okay, so semen is a mixture of sperm and all these accessory gland secretions. There's about 2 to 5 milliliters of semen ejaculated, and that's going to contain around 20 to 150 million sperm in a milliliter. So millions and millions and millions of these little swimmers are going to be ejaculated. The semen has fructose for ATP productions, because these sperm have a tail, have a flagella that needs energy to be able to swim. The semen is going to protect and activate the sperm, so they're kind of, when they're sitting in the epididymis waiting to go, they kind of need to be turned on like one last time so that they're ready to swim inside the female reproductive tract. So that's going to occur as part of this semen. Because it's liquid, it gives something for the sperm to swim in. So it allows the sperm to swim. And again, it's alkaline, which is going to neutralize any acidity in the male urethra and the female vagina, which allows increased sperm motility and sperm health. And we're going to talk about why you need so many sperm, why it's 150 million sperm, and there's just one egg that you're going for in the female. So we'll talk more about that later on when we talk about actual conception. What else does semen do besides protect the sperm, turn it on, and allow the sperm to swim? We also have these prostaglandins that are produced, and inside the cervix. So if you look at the female, okay, you have the vagina, okay, so we haven't really had our female reproduction yet, but the entryway into the female is the vagina, and then the entryway into the uterus is called the cervix, and you'll see this in a little more detail in your future lectures. But the cervix will have a mucus plug to protect the uterus from the outside opening. The distance between the vagina and the outside is not very long. It's not a very short tube. So you have a mucus plug to help produce or protect the uterus from infection. So these prostaglandins, the sperm's got to get through that mucus plug. So the prostaglandins help thin that out so that the sperm can more easily swim through this area. It also causes reverse peristalsis in the uterus. And so the uterus, during the female orgasm, a lot of times women will say that they felt like their uterus was contracting. And that actually happens. So these prostaglandins will cause the uterus to contract, and the uterus is kind of shaped kind of like that. So think about a bulb that you would suck something out of a little baby's nose. Do you know where I'm going with this? So the uterus will contract reverse peristalsis, it kind of helps suck up the sperm. So it helps suck up the sperm from the vagina through the cervix and into the uterus so that it can get to the ovaries. I know, I told you there's a lot to learn, and I'm no holds barred. I'm going to tell you everything. All right. It also has something called relaxin. It's got some enzymes, and these are used to increase sperm motility. Again, you've got to have ATP, so you've got to have everything you need to make ATP for these sperm. It's also got some things that suppress the female immune response, because the female are going to see these as a foreign body, and so you don't want them to attack the sperm before they've had a chance to reach the egg. So that's one of the things it does. It's got some antibacterial action to protect the sperm from any bacteria, because the skin is covered in bacteria. The female reproductive tract, external genitalia has bacteria, so this helps protect the sperm from bacteria. It also has these coagulants, these clotting factors, and so that allows, once the semen passes through the cervix into the uterus, and when it's in the female reproductive tract, to kind of thicken up to clot, so it doesn't just drain back out. So you have a thicker, more viscous semen, so the sperm can stay in there longer, and hopefully get to the egg. If that's the point. And so we do all of this so that the sperm can begin their journey through the female reproductive tract up to the ovary. All right. So what is the sexual response in the male? All right, so a lot of times we use the word orgasm, okay, but that's actually a two-part response. You have erection and ejaculation. So erection is the first part, and so typically, if you look back at the penis, again, we haven't done a whole lot of the anatomy yet. We will in another video. But you'll notice that this blue material, this is it's called the corpus cavernosum and the corpus spongiosum. These are kind of cavernous sponge-like. They're both cavernous sponge-like materials that are vascular. And what they do, they arterioles open up, and blood will enter into this material and cause it to swell, and that's how you get an erection. So basically, it's the penis becoming engorged with blood. So that's erection. When these erectile tissues that are kind of sponge-like, and we'll do some more about that when we talk about a little more detail on the anatomy, you're going to get this engorgement of the penis with blood. And so normally these arterioles are constricted, so there's limited blood flow in the penis, but the penis is flaccid. But upon excitement, sexual excitement, the central nervous system will activate the parasympathetic neurons. Okay, so the parasympathetic, remember back to your first anatomy where you had your central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system, and you had the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, your flight and fight and rest and digest. So parasympathetic neurons are turned on, and they release something called nitric oxide, a neurotransmitter. It's actually a gas that causes smooth muscle to relax. So it targets the penis, and this vascular smooth muscle will relax. These arterioles will dilate, okay, and that allows the corpora cavernosa to fill with blood and to engorge, okay. And this also kind of squeezes against the veins and retards venous drainage. So the penis will become rigid based on engorgement of these erectile tissues with blood. So you get enlargement and stiffening of the penis, or the erection, and that's based on this release of nitric oxide. You may have heard of Viagra. Cool thing about Viagra, it was first used in men who were having heart issues, like heart attacks and things like that. And so they gave them Viagra, and one of the side effects of Viagra is these men started to get erections. And that's when we realized, okay, we were increasing blood flow to the heart, but as a side effect, we were also increasing blood flow to the penis. And so the secondary effect of the Viagra wound up being its #1 selling point. So for men with erectile dysfunction, Viagra can help with that. So the second part is ejaculation. And so this is where you actually propel the semen out of the male and into the female, all right, or somewhere else, I guess. It could be a condom or something else. So propelling the semen from the male to wherever. All right, so this is a sympathetic reflex, all right, and so parasympathetic, sympathetic. So in this case, sympathetic nervous system your bladder sphincters will constrict. This will reduce the chance of urine being exposed or expelled. Because remember, the penis has one tube, has the urethra, and that urethra is for both ejaculation and urination. Okay, so it's got a urinary function and a sexual function. Well, during sex, we don't need to be urinating, so you're going to prevent that expulsion of urine by contracting muscles at the bladder. Then all your ducts, your seminal vesicles, your bulbourethral glands, prostate, all these glands, all those smooth muscles will contract and empty their contents. Okay, and you've actually got some muscles called bulbospongiosus muscles that will start to undergo these rapid contractions, and they can expel semen at about 11 miles an hour. All right, so it's a pretty rapid event. Once orgasm or climax has been reached, we call that the ejaculatory event. We call that orgasm. All right, and that's kind of the end of the sexual response. Now, I learned this in graduate school to kind of remember that this particular activity, in order to have an erection and an ejaculation and achieve orgasm, so to achieve orgasm takes both the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic for erection, sympathetic for ejaculation. And so what I learned was point and shoot. Point, P, parasympathetic, erection, shoot, sympathetic, ejaculation. So it kind of makes sense, point and shoot. So now hopefully you'll never forget which nervous system is required for erection and ejaculation. All right, so that was fun. All right, so we'll continue on with the male. There's going to be a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about the male, and again, we'll do an anatomy lecture as well to help you learn more about these particular parts of the male reproductive system and what they do. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you again soon.